Welcome back, and in today's video we're going to go through how to set up an abandoned checkout flow that will print sales on autopilot for your e-commerce brand. It's pretty safe to say that this is going to be one of the highest revenue generating flows that you're going to set up for your store, full stop. It always seems to be in the top 1 to 3 of highest revenue generating flows that we set up for all of our clients. So if you're an e-com brand or if you're an agency and you don't have this set up for your own store or for your clients, you're quite literally throwing money down the drain, just given the fact that these customers have such high intent and they literally just stopped on the checkout page. Now, these are just a few results that we've gotten for clients in the past. And again, very safe to say that this is going to be generating a lot of sales. So if you don't have it, you are definitely missing out. Now, in today's video, we're going to go through a few topics. So first of all, I'm going to go through the structure and we'll just jump into a Klaviyo account. I'll go through how to actually set this up from scratch, also the content that you're going to include, a bit about A/B testing, and obviously some examples of abandoned checkout emails that you can take inspiration from for your own brand. Now, to get straight into it, we'll just head over to the Klaviyo account. And before I actually set this up, I want to stress the fact that the abandoned checkout flow is not the same as the abandoned cart. The abandoned cart is triggered from an added to cart event. And if you have a Shopify store, you need to set this up manually by adding some code into your Shopify account. And I can go through this in more detail in another video. Obviously, today's video is just about abandoned checkouts, but I just want to make that very clear because I often see this whenever we're auditing accounts from other e-com brands. I also notice that like agencies or even the e-com brand, like they fail to realize this, that they're totally different flows. So don't make that mistake. And yeah, we'll get straight into it. So first of all, we're going to set up the trigger, and this flow is going to be triggered, as I mentioned, off the started checkout or checkout started event in Shopify or whatever platform you're using to host your store. Now, we're going to want to set up some flow filters as well. So we'll want to make sure that people who've purchased throughout this flow will get removed, because we don't want to be following up with people after they've purchased through one of these emails. It would be quite embarrassing and the customer might get annoyed. Now, the first one we're going to set up is placed order 0 times since starting this flow. So if they purchase when they're going through, they'll be booted out. We're also going to want to make sure as well that we're not like overly sending these abandonment emails. We'll make sure to exclude them if they have been in the flow within the last, let's say, 14 days. Now, you can kind of change this around based on like how aggressive you want to be with these abandoned checkout emails, but I kind of recommend anywhere between 7 to 14, even 30 days if you choose. So what we'll do is has not been in this flow in the last, we'll just do 14 days for the purpose of this example. Now I'll just move my head just so I can save this. And now we have our, just click done, we have our trigger set up. Cool. So next we're going to want to add in a time delay. And again, this will have to be tested, your time delay. So we like to kind of go for around 45 minutes. Sometimes we test maybe 20 minutes. And obviously it depends, again, how aggressive you kind of want to be with these emails. It all just comes down to testing. So just test different time delays to find whichever one is the most optimal for your brand. So we'll just go for 45 minutes in this example. Now, one kind of common mistake that I see whenever we're auditing accounts is that e-com brands set up their abandoned checkout flows with just one path. They send the same messaging to all customers. Now, how we like to kind of break this up is, and there's a number of ways you can do this. You can set it up by the value of what the person is purchasing, or else if they're a first-time purchaser or not. And that's the kind of route. The second one is the route that we kind of like to take, obviously depending on the brand. So we'll just go for that option, the second option I mentioned. So what we'll do is we'll throw in a conditional split into here. So what we'll do is we want to break this up between people who have purchased before and people who haven't purchased before. And the reason being is because, as you can imagine, if you've never purchased from a brand before, you're probably going to want to see more social proof and more about the actual benefits of the product because you're unfamiliar. However, if you've purchased from the brand before, that person's probably going to need like less social proof and less convincing because they're obviously quite familiar with your brand before. They've used your product. So there's not really as much of a need to go so hard on the social proof and obviously the kind of the hard selling. Now, what we'll do is we'll make sure that this person has placed order, sorry, not make sure, but we'll just put in placed order 0 times over all time. And again, I'll just move my head there and we'll save that. Now, anyone going down the yes path means that the customer or the person they have never purchased before, and obviously the no path means that they have purchased before. Now, what we'll do is we'll add in our first email here. And we will just add in another one over here. And then what we can do is we can just add in time delays. Let's clone that across. And we'll just save that. Now, what we'll normally do is we kind of like to leave a day in between the first and the second email. We want to make sure that we're kind of following up with these customers in a quick time frame, because like they have gotten so close, so we need to be following up quite quickly. Again, this will come down to testing. You can make this 2 days, you can make it 3 days. However, we've seen the best results when it is just it's a shorter time frame, as you can imagine, because the longer time goes on, the less likely the customer is going to be to come back and actually make a purchase. Now, what we'll do is the structure that we normally like to go for with on the left path for non-purchasers is we like to make this one a bit longer than the one with the people who have purchased already. And the reason being is because, as I kind of mentioned there before, these people are going to need a bit more convincing than those who have purchased before. Now, I might just speed this video up just so you guys can see the kind of finished piece, but we're almost nearly there. And what I can do is I can just clone these across, put them over here, we'll clone this as well, we'll bring it down, and then we'll just clone this, and then we're done. Cool. So this is how our flow would look. So I'll just click done here. So that's going to be your general kind of structure that you'll have. Now, we might actually make this little time delay here 2 days, just so we're not completely bombarding the customers. And again, this will all come down to testing. You need to test these time delays for your own brand. Every brand's going to be a bit different. This is kind of the structure that we've seen that works the best for the clients that we work with. Now, as I mentioned, we have 4 emails down the left, we have 3 emails down the right. The customers on this path, they have never purchased before, so they're going to need that bit more convincing. Okay, next we're going to go on to the actual content of the emails and what you should include in these. Now, we're going to talk about the path for the people who have never purchased before, and then we can kind of talk a bit about those who have purchased before. But this is generally the kind of structure that we go for. So in email 1, you're going to want to give a quick reminder, show off social proof, and showcase some product benefits. You have to keep it simple. You just want to remind them and leave. Obviously, show off a bit of reviews, testimonials, whatever you have, just to give yourself that extra edge and give that customer that extra bit of a push to make the purchase. But just keep it nice and simple. There's no need to include reams and reams of content here. You just need to show the simple reminder, and then obviously, hopefully the customer will come back. You have to remember that people are very busy. You don't know what happened in that customer's life. The doorbell could have rang. I don't know, they could have dropped their phone down the toilet. God knows. Nobody knows what could have happened to obviously impede on that customer's purchase. So obviously a quick reminder is just completely fine in this scenario. Now, email 2, you want to go a bit deeper on the social proof and the product benefits here. You also need to stress the fact that why this person actually needs this product in their life. So you need to show out those reviews, show off those reviews, I should say. You also want to show off the benefits. So what can this product do for that person, and why do they need that in their life? So just go a bit deeper on that. You can make the content a bit longer, a bit more beefed out, and obviously that should convert quite well. Now in email 3, what we like to do as a last ditch attempt is we like to offer a discount code or some other form of offer. It could be free shipping or whatever it is that you have for your brand in return, or sorry, not in return, but to try and incentivize that person to come back and make the purchase. Email 4 is going to be the last chance to claim their offer. You want to add some urgency and obviously still focus on the product benefits and some social proof here as well. Very importantly as well, if you have a Shopify store, make sure that you're setting up dynamic discount codes. That means you can add a time restraint on the code, which means that your discount code will actually be time limited and you're not just adding in some fake urgency into your email. Now, when it comes to people who have purchased before, the content is going to be quite similar. You don't really need to go as heavy on the social proof. Obviously, it's still nice to include some. However, these people have purchased from your brand before, so you don't need to do as much kind of convincing as it would be for the people who have never purchased before. And we don't really like to give discounts to people who have made the purchase before because they are quite likely to return. As I mentioned before, you don't know what could have happened. That person could have just got easily distracted and would have just simply forgot to make that purchase. So it doesn't always mean that the customer had a genuine kind of like reason as to like they didn't like your product. So they didn't actually have like an issue with your brand or your product. They literally just might have forgot or something might have popped up. So more kind of like reminder style content would work better in my experience in the path for people who have purchased before. Now, it's really, really important that you don't just leave. Same goes with actually any of your email marketing strategy, but you don't just leave your abandoned checkout flows idle and you don't constantly optimize them and test them. It's going to be really important to test subject lines, preview text, even your sender name. It actually works really well if you send from a person's name. So, for example, if you were to take Nike, so you could say John from Nike instead of Nike in the sender name. So when you put a person's name in the sender name of your email, the open rates tend to be a lot better. But again, this comes down to testing, and this is what testing is for. It's going to be important as well that you test out some call to actions on your emails. You test different wording on the buttons. That works really well for us to kind of win marginal gains for our clients, which means that our abandoned checkout flows are going to be constantly improving month on month. So obviously the revenue is going to be going up month on month, which is the most important thing. Now, what I might do is I'll go through some examples of some abandoned checkout emails. Now, I would add some more to these emails, obviously, but nonetheless, we'll kind of go through them. So I'll just kind of zoom in on this one here. So this is an example from Fabletics Men. And this would be a great email to include in, let's say, the first email of your abandoned checkout. So it's quite simple. Obviously, nice little heading there, nice little call to action showing off the product. And obviously, there's an offer there as well. I'd probably obviously get rid of the offer if this was the first email, because you don't want to be handing out an offer in the first 1 to 2 emails. You want to delay that obviously further down the flow. Now, this is an example from Nike. Again, this would be a great option for an email in the first message of the sequence, because it's quite simple and the copy is quite simple, the design is quite simple, but most importantly as well, what they're doing here is they're also cross-selling onto other products. So that's going to be a nice way that you can increase your average order value as well. Now, there's another example here from Thousand Fell, and this would be a good example of what you could include later on in the flow. So this is going to be like a last ditch attempt to convert the customer. And you can see the copy is quite simple, nice little offer there, nice little call to action. And again, they are cross-selling, which could improve your average order value. Finally, as well there, so what they're doing is they're removing any risk. So they have a 30-day return period. So obviously for people who've never purchased before, that's going to be an extra nudge to make the purchase. I like this little design here from Alex Mill. It's quite simple, gives the offer, shows off some nice imagery. It does a bit of cross-selling, simple. I noticed that quite simple emails do very well for the abandoned checkout. There's no real need to kind of overcomplicate your messaging. The one thing I will say is that all of these emails could actually include a bit more social proof. Now, if we go over to Nike's one, obviously Nike, given the brand that they are, they don't need as much social proof as, let's say, other kind of smaller brands, because they just have that brand recognition. But in the other ones, I would definitely add in a bit more social proof. You could even add in some here. And obviously in the emails over here, I would add in a bit more social proof just to give that extra bit of a nudge to the customer as well. So hopefully you guys found this video useful. As always, if you guys have any questions, drop them in the comments. And I will be pumping out a lot more of these kind of videos, just breaking down how to do these flows and obviously different styles of content that you can put in there. So thanks very much for watching, and hopefully I will see you on the next one.